Okay.
Okay, well, we're mostly kind of here-ish. So welcome back. This afternoon is the grand finale of our spectacular retreat event here.
Is there gonna be fireworks?
Oh, fireworks, you know, dancing girls, the whole thing.
That's the only reason I came.
So
Don't let you.
yesterday and this morning, we've covered this in broad strokes. We've covered it in a lot of detail. We've covered it from various angles. So this afternoon, I suggest we look at little specifics. You know, little like, yeah, but what about this? But what about that? I mean, things in your real experience. It's very easy to get theoretical about all this stuff and sort of think big, but it's all about whatever is happening right here, right now. And so, both in terms of issues as well as where to look for solutions, so to speak. It's always, you know, concrete, real-time experience rather than, you know, sort of big abstract issues and this issue and that issue, all of which is kind of long ago and far away.
So I know everybody's had the experience at one point or another of being with maybe another person that just talks and talks and talks. Like just, and it just goes and goes ad nauseum. And it's
I don't know anyone like that.
It's such an amazing reflection of what happens in the head.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's outside me, but really it's that head just never shuts up.
If only it was outside, then you could go to the other room.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
And there is a sense of being, I guess, distracted to the point that you miss what's really around you as you're on that sort of roller coaster.
Sure.
Any guidelines for that, or?
Well, whenever anything is happening, there's always actually everything else happening too. And so the trick is it's kind of like you're driving on a highway, but everywhere you go, there's always an exit right there. And the trick is to just have the wherewithal to just take one of the exits at any point. So I'm sitting here and I'm obsessing about something and I'm talking to myself or arguing myself or coming down on myself or more likely getting pissed off at someone else in my imagination, and it's all blah, 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 right? But you know, there's colors outside. There's the sound of the wind in the trees. There's, you know, whatever. There's, you know, getting up and grabbing a cookie. There's real-time experience, which is outside the realm of this argument, whatever it is, that is right here, right now, already. And the trick is, again, just to sort of like let yourself touch that. And it's not like you need to go from thinking to that in any kind of heavy-handed, just a little tiny touch, just a little touch, because it's not about stopping the thinking. That's not going to happen. It's not that like the thinking is a problem that you need to find a solution to. It's just a matter of a kind of a subliminal, unconscious reminder that, well, yeah, the thinking's happening, but that's not all that's happening here. There's more than that, and more than that, and more than that, and more than that, and like basically no end. More is all the way down, even while the thinking is doing its insanity. And so you just kind of just touch that. You just touch it. You know, you don't need to be heavy-handed about it. It's not like you need to attain it or cling to it or, you know, lock it in or something. Just a little touch. And over the long haul, that is very powerful. All of this, I mean, you I'm formalizing this by calling it a yoga and dignifying it as being a spiritual practice. But all of this is really, really simple in practice. It's just, it's a little tiny little thing. It's just in the moment from time to time, just like just tune into your experience. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's not like experience with a capital E. Just like, like look at like green in a bottle and just a little zing, just that, and then whatever, and then you're off, caught up in whatever you're caught up in, and then just little things like that. It's powerful, and it's ultimately transformative. It's just a kind of a letting yourself feel the actuality and the open-endedness of experience, as opposed to just this sort of world that our head manufactures for us that we feel like we're in. It's just a kind of a palpable reminder that there's more.
Instead of it turning away from or shutting down your thinking, it feels to me almost like you just open up the bandwidth a little bit.
Yeah.
That and this.
Exactly. It's exactly. It's about, yeah, exactly. It's about a sense of more, and you're not going away from the thinking.
Right.
You're just seeing, but there's more. It's not, it's very easy. It's very easy to for either or logic, because as human beings, all of our formal logic and language and everything is about either or. It's this or it's that. It's not like kind of both and, by and large. And so it's really easy to think of things and then orient to getting away from them, or look for solutions to them, and this is not about that at all. This is about, well, things are the way they are, and they are already being what they are. Okay, cool. But is that the whole story? And the answer is always no. The answer is always there's more. And that moreness is your salvation. That moreness, because that moreness, the open-ended moreness of experience is ultimately transcendental. And it conveys directly that it is that, and so you discover the transcendental. Yeah. Even in the midst of your normalcy.
You've got a stink bug right on your neckline.
Is it stinking?
There he is.
Don't smash it.
Hi.
Just say hello.
It's my buddy.
You
My mother in a
would
former
like
life.
this.
Squash it, for sure.
Oh, no question.
Yeah, no squashing the
Just-
stink bugs.
Smush it.
Is it 6 to 1? One does in terms of the staying on that, instead of taking the exit from the thought off the highway, staying on the highway, but changing, like seeing the thought as a texture or whatever.
Sure, that's another way to do it.
Right.
I mean, you go through the highway, and the highway isn't a highway anymore.
Right.
I mean, that's a whole nother approach. Is anything that is something isn't really that. So a chain of thought that is a train of thought isn't really a train of thought. It's not a train of thought, but it's more than that. So even without going elsewhere, you can find the more right within whatever it is that seems to be presenting. Because thought isn't really thought. Thought is a very weird, miraculous energy presence, or I mean, whatever that means, right? What is thought? When you're thinking, what is it that's present? How is it present? How is it, what is consciousness? How is thought present to consciousness? I mean, all of these are just like miraculous mysteries. They're so obviously astounding, And so, you're thinking and you're pissed off and you're thinking, isn't it? But wait a minute, but look at the thinking itself, which is what Michael's talking about. And all of a sudden thinking is just a bizarre, miraculous light show or something, And so even thinking isn't really thinking. And so the issue of being stuck in it becomes absurd. How can you be stuck in the northern lights? They're just there.
It's definitely, I mean, for me, I find it harder because the meaning of the gravitation of the meaning seems so seductive that it's to pull back and see the but
true. I mean, this is a major issue. Is the seduction of semantic meaningfulness. I mean, this is it's basically, it's hypnosis is what it is. It's hypnosis. We become hypnotized by the apparent meanings of the words that are thrown at us and that we throw at ourselves. And that hypnosis becomes a self-fulfilling actuality, where you sort of feel like you're where you're telling yourself you are. you know, but it's all bootstrapped up out of nothing. It's all, you know, weirdness that looks as if it was that, and then kind of becomes that sort of just by playing along, you know, as opposed to you look at what's actually present and it's not that. Or if it feels like it's that, look at something else that's actually present, because there's always more present outside any system, and that's not that. And that thatness translates to the this not thatness, and the whole thing just opens up. But, you know, but again, it's not a matter of, it's just little flirtations, little touches is all. It's not like a big thing of, oh, I have to, God, this is happening, I really have to get over there. No, just little gentle little touches. And it's cumulatively, it's really potent, it's just transformative.
Peter?
I mean, even considering that notion is transformative.
Rana, can I ask a question for you?
Sure, why not?
Okay, Rana wants to know, she says she's interested in the resolution of the sense of destabilization. First, she asked,
Ain't gonna
say
happen.
more about this. Oh, it ain't gonna happen.
Well,
Rana,
no,
can you talk more about destabilization? That was her first
yeah.
question.
At first, destabilization feels like destabilization because it feels like there was some stability that is being somehow being moved out of or taken away or whatever, right?
Right.
But as one becomes more and more accustomed to this state of affairs, one discovers what I was thinking of is it's only destabilization with reference to the supposed stability that was there, which turned out to be bullshit and turned out to be, you know, basically a pretense. And so it's not destabilization, it's actually the true stabilization versus as dynamic actuality rather than the false stabilization of these imaginary structures that you know, that the unconscious holds to be real. So, I mean, you know, I mean, for example, we were kind of joking about it. We were talking about confusion earlier. Confusion feels like confusion, and it feels confusing when you discover confusion relative to something you thought wasn't confusion. But it turns out that anything you thought wasn't confusion is imagined. And so wow, reality is really confusing. But then the fact that reality is really confusing is not confusing, because it would only be confusing if it could be not confusing. It's confusing if it's supposed to make sense, then it's confusing that it doesn't. But that it is an infinite fluidity that has whose stability is spontaneity and intelligent real-time improvisation. You know, that is its stability, and that is that you can bank on that. That's money in the bank. That's okay, cool. That's what it is. It's not stable. It's not stuck. It's not rigid or fixed. But it's, you know, if you try to get a handle on it, it's confusing as hell. There ain't no handles. But the fact that there's no handles on experience is just a fact, not a problem. Experience doesn't need handles because it doesn't go away. You don't need to hang on to it because you never lose it. Did I answer the question? What was the question? What were we talking about? I'm confused.
Really
Handle destabilization.
I'm destabilized. But where's the handle?
Seems like destabilization is just because you might have a mental construct of the way it should be,
Exactly.
and you're wavering from that construct.
Exactly. You know, but again, ultimately, we discover that the wavering is being more genuine than what it actually is. So if anything, it's not a destabilizing, but a settling into actuality,
Yeah,
which if anything is stability, even if you wouldn't describe it as that.
yeah. It's the very foundation of it in a sense.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, actuality is absolutely reliable. Actuality is absolute security. And yet it's not a security as one might previously imagined it, of something static or something that doesn't move or something that's whatever. It's absolutely fluid and dynamic and unpredictable and spontaneous, and anything goes. But that turns out to be completely reliable. It turns out to be the foundation of everything, and it is total security. It's much more secure than the imagined constructed security that we try to create by trying to get a handle on a world that we can get a handle on.
How is it that you think that that tendency so persistently exists to constantly have constructs to have supposed stability?
Yeah, well, it's hard to, you can't say. Who knows? The how and the why are just question marks.
Too
I
many
mean,
origins. Yeah.
Empirically, we can see that it seems to be the case, and so the real issue for me is, well, so what? And the point to me is see what's actually going on. See that these worldviews, these frames of reference, are essentially imaginary and are bootstrapped into existence by imagination, and that they are not reliable and that they're all inaccurate in terms of what they claim to be. And they exist in a context of actuality, which is not imaginary. This is not imaginary. This is not a concept. This is real. But it's the real that it is, not the real that you might want to think it is. And so the trick is to find that real, and that real is absolutely secure. It's absolutely reliable. It's absolutely nutritious, entertaining, edifying. I mean, it's all good and no bad. And when you find that, the immaturity of needing these artificial partial structures that are basically unreal, untrue, imaginary, i.e. crazy, it just becomes a no-brainer that there's nothing there other than games, gamesmanship.
Could you say something about, and I find this to be something that I, have discussions about with people, causality and or non-causality. Seems to me there appears to be a continuity.
Sure.
And there, within the realm of science, there is cause and effect.
Sure.
Or such things.
Sure.
And it appears to me that if there was no kind of a linearity, sort of a spring, each moment springing from the previous,
Right.
then it would be all just, just fuzz on the tube, like you were saying before. It's just chaos.
Right.
And I don't feel it's chaos.
Right.
So what
Okay.
about this notion?
Sure. Causality as well as the opposite of causality are both theories. They're both hypotheses. And as such, they're inaccurate. They're not wholly inaccurate, but they're partial descriptions of something that is completely beyond that. The way I would put it, it's totally inexpressible with what this actually is and the way it actually works. The way I would put it, in fact, we talked about this briefly yesterday, is that experience, let's say the radiance or the energy of experience, the experiential characteristics, what shows up as content of experience or objects of experience, let's say, on all levels of bandwidth, tends to show up as patterns. And these patternings tend to be hyper intelligently, functionally structured with relation to themselves and with relation to each other. And this seems to be inherent to what this is. It seems to be the nature of this, that it is like that, which of course doesn't explain anything, but there you go. You can't explain the unexplainable. And so causality, flow of time, consistency, all these kinds of observations are just extrapolations of this fundamental phenomenon of that the patterning. It's not, the patterns are not just random explosions of like weird patterns in any simple sense. There's an incredibly intricate and detailed sort of an interrelationship between the patterns that is, it's ultimately unresolvable. You can't say ultimately what it is. For example, science has been trying to do that. Newtonian physics comes along and it makes very profound observations about the apparent relations of material bodies. And quantum mechanics comes along and makes even more profound observations, which basically they don't invalidate Newtonian observations, but they're just not really relevant. They're gross oversimplifications of a much subtler phenomena that departs from Newtonian level occurred. And now newer advances in physics are doing the same thing to quantum level and so on. And I expect that we will find this process continuing forever, where the more profound observations will be more accurate and essentially invalidate previous observations, but still never be final, you know. And so, I mean, talk about causality, even on the quantum level, already causality is kind of out the window, or at least very iffy, because there's all sorts of acausal and instantaneous interactions between things at a distance that are observed and measurable. And, you know, how does causality work within that? And yet on the sort of grosser Newtonian level of observation, there's a, you know, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And it sure looks like that if you don't look too closely. You look more closely and then you find, whoa, there's some weird shit here that isn't actually kind of like that. And that's kind of funny. And then you look even closer than that. And again, you know, so it's sort of peeling the layers of the onion. And what it seems to be looks different at each. And there's no center to the onion. It's just layers. It's layers and layers and layers. So when I say it seems to be, you know, this inherent intelligence be the nature of the radiance in terms of its patterning. These patterns seem to show up with an intensely, they call it a functional structurality of the way the patterns appear and function with themselves and with each other, the interrelationship, basically all the stuff that all science talks about. It is that, but exactly what works and what the ultimate, you know, the ultimate question of how's it all work? I don't think that's going to be answered, because I think ultimately it's a miracle. I think it's literally a miracle.
Is there some deeper thing to maybe causality and non-causality that's at a certain level, but maybe there's something that's deeper than that?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. And there's something under that and something under that. But the fact that there's something under it doesn't replace the other one. It just means that things appear to be different various ways at various focuses of observation. Let's put it that way. Things seem to behave a certain way, or seem to have a certain kind of logic of their structure from certain points of view. And there's no limit to points of view. Yeah. And they all have a different implication. Yeah. You know, what is experience? You know, experience is a very different thing in the waking state and in the deep sleep state. What is experience when you're under general anesthesia? What is experience when you're dead? What is experience when you're dreaming? I mean, from each of these viewpoints, you get a readout of what experience is, and they're all true. They're not inaccurate, but they don't converge. You know, it starts to get, well, yeah, there's a lot of implications of these perspectives, but it's not like, okay, making sense is not on the agenda. You know, because it doesn't make sense. It is as it is, surrendering to that fact as if there was anything to surrender, that there anything that wasn't that fact. You know, that's kind of what you get. And then your particular readout of it, you look at it in terms of causality, look at it in terms of subject-object, look at it in terms of, you know, mental, physical, look at it in terms of anything, and you get a different readout depending on how you look at it. And there's no true one, but there's no untrue one either. You know, causality, it's not like there's no causality. There certainly is causality from a certain level, from a certain perspective of observation. Causality is obviously very meaningful and useful, and we all use it every day. But it's not ultimate. Yeah. It's like you can think of it like lots of tools in which are appropriate, but there's no limit to how many tools that are there. And some of them are very different than others of them.
Has its place.
Yeah. I mean, the way the patterns work is where, I mean, in terms of just fascination an amazing, field of investigation. The way experiential patterns behave is so juicy. I mean, there's so much there. What seems to be life forms, what seems to be physical environments, what seems to be, any entity, what seems to be thought, what seems to be all of these things, these are all basically patterns of the energy. They're all just patterns appearing in experiential energy that the consciousness interprets as object, as content, And it's astounding, all of these patterns. That's what all the fuss is about. Confusion comes from interpreting patterns, and clarity comes from seeing that these interpretations are partial, but that doesn't negate the patterns, and it doesn't negate all the ways these patterns can seem to be. But the really powerful fact, like I was talking about with Fred earlier when we were talking about karma, the really powerful fact about the patterns is that there's no one way that they are. So you can look at any pattern, and there are perspectives of looking at that same pattern where it's not even a pattern. You can look at anything, and there are perspectives from which it's nothing. So everything is sort of self-destructs just by its own nature, because it's almost as if things appear the way they do because of accident of alignment. I don't know if you've ever seen the Salvador Dali paintings and stuff where it's like a bust of Voltaire, but there's no actual bust there. The bust of Voltaire is a rock in the distance and someone walking past, but there happened to be a line at this moment, so all of a sudden, whoa, there's like this bust. But it's kind of like if you shift the perspective, there's no bust of Voltaire. Yeah. And in a certain way, all experiential patterns on every level of bandwidth are like that. Yeah. From a certain perspective, they hang together and they seem to present as whatever pattern they have with whatever degree of coherence they have. But you shift the angle a bit, and all of a sudden, it's like, where'd the pattern go? Where'd Voltaire go? And this is discoverable across the board. And it's really fun to play with. It's kind of, you might say, more kind of advanced stuff, or more people who are oriented with a more scientific bent. I might play with this stuff. Not necessarily for everyone, but it's trippy. It's just an amazing condition.
Shifting patterns, I would say that's like another way to put it is to kind of finding the newness. Like find the newness in what you're perceiving.
Sure, that's a way to put it, sure.
And one way to do that, I found in my experience, is to go to a new place. Like, sure. I get the sense that some people just adore travel because they're so out of their element, and so in a new place, it sort of comes right in their face. With all the newness.
Sure. That's a heavy-handed way to do it. Yeah. But you can also do it by shifting your headquarters.
Well, that's more than what I'm really actually interested in. I supposedly know I can travel and find
it's cheaper.
Places. Yeah.
Not as much fun.
Yeah. That's what I'm more interested
Yeah.
in.
When you look very closely at experience, and this is what, what I'm calling it yoga, this is what noticing is all about, you discover that exactly what is being experienced in the instant has never happened before precisely, and will never happen again precisely, and is already gone as soon as it appears. So even without shifting your head is shifting. You're breathing. The molecules are moving. The dust is moving. The sun is moving. The clouds are moving. The tree, the wave. Everything is shifting. And we say, oh, but not much. Yeah, okay, not much, but a little bit different is a euphemism for entirely different. There's no matters of degrees. Any degree is total. Slightly different is totally different. Okay, it's only a little totally different, but.
It seems that once you've had a taste of that, like if you look at, I don't know, a stop sign or the side of a building, and you get that, holy cow, what is that?
Yeah.
It's like for me, that's more alive and interesting than going to Polynesia or whatever.
Yeah.
I'd rather be able to see a stop sign that goes, whoa.
Yeah. Or a cushion, or a chair, or have a sip of tea that's just like, whoa.
It's irresistible.
Yeah. And this is what everything is, completely and utterly all the time. And that's the point, is like tune into that and you're always on vacation. Tune into that and you're always in Tahiti or whatever, right? Because it's always wow. Wow, 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 wow. Or, oh, this is so boring, kind of sitting in this damn room for 2 days, God, I wish something would change. Let's go somewhere else. It's like, really? Look around, look closely, look more closely. It's not actually like that. Exactly what this moment feels like, exactly what we're experiencing right now has not happened before, ever. And so this room that I've been in for 2 days is a complete phantasm. There is no room. The room is a phenomenon of the instant, and it's already gone utterly and completely, and I will never recover it. There's no room, there's experience of a room, and experience is constantly dynamically shifting. So the room is a composite that's constructed in the imagination, the supposition of an objectification of a structure that's actually out there stably. And when I shift my head, the room doesn't shift, it's sitting there. But that's imaginary, because the actuality is that there is no room, there's only experience of a room. There may be a room, but I may be dreaming and there's no room. It's just the experience of a room. So, and the experience of the room is never the same in two instances. Never. And every instant it is unique. It has never been that way before and will never be that way again. And even in that instant, it isn't the way that it is because it's already something else, because there's absolutely no point at which there's any duration. I mean, it's just weirder than weird. But the point is to notice that you can tune into that, you can notice it, because it is in fact the fact. It is in fact the way this actually works, and it's obvious, it's not even hidden. It's not even secret, it's not even very subtle, it's totally blatant. I mean, all children know this. You ask a child to sketch a schematic of someone looking at something, and they'll draw an eyeball with rays coming out of it, projecting the thing that's there. You ever seen that?
Yeah.
I remember that in first grade. Children know that vision goes that way, not this way. No, your eye is sitting there capturing the light that's coming. It's not like that. The subjective experiencing is that experience is of the experiencer. The room is of the seer of the room. I mean, it's not like it goes one way or another, obviously, in a simple sense. But again, it's an intuition of this fundamental fact that there are no objects, there's only experience that may be held to be objects.
And that's the basic fact.
Look at it.
Experience
Try and find another
is the fact, is the reality.
Try and find another fact. Where are you going to look? You're going to look in experience. And so you've already given it away, So.
It's hard to talk to a materialist about things like this.
No, it's very easy. It's very easy.
It's a short conversation.
No, they're wrong. It's very easy to demonstrate that you're wrong. But there's nothing wrong with materialism. Materialism is actually very true. You just have to insert the missing step that all material observed objective phenomena only appear to an experiencer.
Yeah.
There is no objective phenomena that exists independent of an experiencer, as far as anyone can tell. There may be or may not be, but that's how many angels can dance on the head of a pin. It's total abstraction. So
to get into the materialist argument, you have to immediately go into abstraction, or else you can't conjure up
Sure. And once you're in abstraction, all bets are off. You can talk about anything. You can talk about flat Earth. You can talk about the hollow Earth with the aliens living in the center. You can talk about, who cares? It doesn't matter what you talk about because it's all being made up. But if you want to be scientific about it, okay, let's be scientific. So we get a bunch of physicists and we get a bunch of, electron microscopes in here and start looking at shit really closely. Where are the electron microscopes in your experience? When you look at a piece of matter through an electron microscope, you're also looking at the electron microscope within your experience, and that's the root phenomenon. You can't take that out of the equation and still have it be anything other than, just total blather. It
Well-
doesn't disprove that, but it just means that it makes it not, it's not a part of reality.
But this whole observer effect in quantum mechanics.
Sure, exactly. That's a
It
perfect.
seems to be almost like a point of, touching the materialist point of view. It's
Well, it
almost
is.
like it's almost like saying the materialist proof. That
Sure.
your experiential experience.
Well, quantum.
changes.
I mean, if you talk to an advanced physicist, there are no advanced physicists who leave the observer out of the situation. All phenomena of physics appear the way they do to a point of view. Period. No modern physicist is going to leave the point of view out of the thing. There is nothing that is a certain way. It only is a certain way to a certain point of view. That came in even with Einsteinian stuff before quantum mechanics.
It's a statistical probability.
Yeah, I mean that's there's just so many aspects to it. But cutting edge thought, even materialist cutting edge thought is already not material.
Yeah.
In a simple sense of omitting an observer. So a materialist who claims to be materialist is actually a dinosaur. They're a Luddite. They're not being with state-of-the-art science. They're being with antiquated science. They may as well say the Earth is flat, which is what scientists once said. It's like, hey, catch up on the latest journals, buddy. And even that, the latest journals are last year's journals. So you don't need to appeal to a structure or a consensus, point of view at all. Just use your eyes. Here's experience. Can you find anything else? Does the world exist? Well, as far as I know, sure, why not? But when I say world is a reference to experience. Is anything whatsoever a reference to anything other than experience? Matter. Where do you find matter? Try and find matter without experience. Where are you going to look? Who's going to look? It may or may not be there, but again, that's like how many angels can dance on the head of a pin. May or may not be there. What does that mean? What's real is what is, and what is experiential. It's a matter of being empirical. We're getting a little abstract. Not really. And all this stuff, it's always about, well, what's happening right here, right now. So if you want to look at materialism, look at where's materialism right here, right now. If you want to look at emotions, it's like, where are emotions right here, right now? If you want to look at because it's so easy, you start to consider an issue, you start talking about abstractions of what the issue is, and all of a sudden you're talking about things elsewhere, and it's all just fantasy. It's the, like it or not, it's the unalterable fact that what is real is what is here now. And there may be real somewhere else, but you can't establish that. So it's just all of a sudden you're in abstraction already. California may exist. I'm not saying it doesn't, but it's not real in my universe, which is the only universe, as far as I know. You all may actually exist as individuals in the sense that I do, as perceivers, but I can't know that in my universe. I sort of pretend it just for the sake of this art form. I pretend that you do exist and talk to you as if you do, but I can't know. Maybe I'm dreaming all this. But it's unimportant because that's not the point. Yeah.
I was wondering if you could talk about, so you have bigger zaps and smaller zaps, or
Yeah.
awarenesses of what
Sure.
this is. How does the switch kind of like you hit the switch, but how does the switch go completely on all the time? Could you give some examples of what that looks like?
No.
Where you're no longer
It's not. Yes, it's not like that. The switch is on all the time, and so it's a matter of recognizing versus not recognizing. and recognition requires sensitivity. Basically, all of this is essentially sensitivity training. So when the switch seems to be on, when there seems to be an on or whatever, what that is the sensitivity is sufficient to recognize that the switch is on, so to speak. Right? It isn't on, and the sensitivity is being dull. But it's very paradoxical. Dull sensitivity is also switching on. Because on can look like dull. Reality can look like stupid. Reality can look like bleary. Reality can look like drunk. Reality can look like sick. Reality can look like crazy. And so the sensitivity has to be real sensitive to like, oh, and then the switch is on all the time. Having a switch actually be on versus off, it's about recognition.
Even me not seeing it is seeing it.
Exactly. Not seeing is probably the 99.9999 dominant mode of what seeing it looks like. I mean, look at over your own history. You've always been seeing it, nothing but.
And yet it feels like it knows when it's being seen.
Sure. And it always knows when it's being seen. That's why it always feels like it feels like you're here, right? To you, I mean, it feels, yeah, I'm like I am. That is the sense of it's being seen. How else could you know that? Where else could that feeling come from? You know, you are being seen because you are what sees yourself as you. Both in the little sense of a body and a personality and a function, as well as in the big sense of, yeah, I am, there is being. I mean, it's all a kind of little loops of it looking at itself.
I'm not sure if this is an intended consequence of 2 solid days, but what the hell is the yoga of radiant presence about?
I don't know.
Yeah, I like to have you come to a workshop, spend money, you pack, you do some things like. You want it to be about something.
I went to the retreat and I didn't even get a stinking t-shirt. What's the take home? The take home is that this is it. Okay, you want to know what the yoga radiant presence is? This is it. Period. Capitals, underlines, exclamation marks, arrows, bold, asterisks. Erase everything else whatsoever for all space and time. This is it. I mean, that's it. That's probably the most succinct I've ever put it.
Hashtag this is it.
This is it. Forget the yoga of radiant presence. Just this is it.
It's not a resolution, or I mean, it's not anything that
it's not
satisfies
anything. It's this. Yeah. Is this ever satisfied?
No.
Is it ever not satisfied?
No.
I mean, it's just, what is it? I don't damned if I know.
Yeah, it's a very strange
That's the this. That's the fullness.
Okay.
Just this, exactly as it is what all the fuss is about.
Yeah.
This is what all the problems are. This is what all solutions are. And
sure,
and
it's the same.
Yeah. It's small smoke and mirrors.
Okay. No, so if it creates some consternation or pursuit of a remedy, then okay, that's what it appears to do.
Sure.
And
it can look like that.
Relief or release from that temporarily or imaginarily permanently, right? That it can kick your ass like that also.
Sure. I mean, one formula I have that is one way of seeing this or of sort of parsing this is that this can look like anything, but it never departs from itself. In other words, it never becomes anything else than this. So it can look like anything. And I mean anything like, anything. I mean, really anything. Even nothing. It can look like nothing. But it's always exactly what it is. So what is it? Well, you can't tell by looking at it. On the one hand, on the other hand, you can tell by looking at it. But but in a way that makes it really accessible. Since this is it, and since it's never not it, like check it out, play with it, poke it, prod it, walk away from it in a huff. Anything, it doesn't matter, but it's here for you to poke at and off at floor and take wrong and try to get away from and everything. So it's not going anywhere. So you can dance with it all you want, all kinds of ways. And how can you do but learn in that process? You know, if there's intelligence there, how can anything other than some kind of learning or at least amusement, which is, you know, a win in some sense.
That's a win, yeah.
Yeah.
So restlessness, however it may show up, is not other than this. And this is not necessarily going to be a remedy for the appearance or experience of restlessness.
Certainly not. In a profound
It
sense.
means in a stranger way than one imagines.
Certainly. I mean, that's true all the way down.
Yeah.
But I mean, in a certain sense, you know, restlessness, one aspect of what this is absolute and extreme and radical dynamism.
Yeah.
Which can certainly feel like restlessness pretty much across the board.
Sure.
I mean, this is continually rustling its own feathers. This is continually always on the way to doing something else, you know, without pause. Of course, it never departs from itself, paradoxically, and yet, nonetheless, there is this it's continually pulling the rug out from under itself, which can certainly feel like restlessness.
Well, sure. I mean, last night I wasn't asleep, but I wasn't quite awake. There was no bodily sense, vague mind sense, but the tapestry of, call it subtle sensation, which I couldn't even say was of the body, was like, would you shut the fuck up?
Sure.
You know, just get out of here. Let me go back to sleep or dream or something. It was just like, and it feels like, oh, there's maybe a person there, maybe a body there, mind, something to do something about. And also it feels like a total expanse.
Sure.
Just space filled with, I don't know, nuance. You can't even, it's weirder than even sensation.
It's weirder than weird.
Yeah.
And if you look closer, it's weirder than that.
So, I mean, a view into that aspect of it, I could, maybe I'm mistaken, but I could say, wow, mental restlessness, or the restlessness of identification or insufficiency or whatever, is a byproduct of this kind of variety of, you know, effervescence.
Sure, exactly. Restlessness on every aspect of every dimension of every bandwidth, you know, hyperspatially. Yeah. Everything is continually vibrating and moving and changing and shifting and in some kind of degree of dynamic tension with itself and with everything else. Yes. And I mean, it's a big fucking mess.
It's a fucking mess.
And yet it's at the same time, it's perfect harmony.
Yeah. Well, that's strange. So
tell me about it.
It can be interpreted with, you know, someone used the word resistance. Right. I mean, you could say to the person at the personality level, I wish I was having a different experience.
Wouldn't that be nice?
But it could also show up as a strange kind of, I don't know, quiescence of all of that.
Sure. Yeah. Because in actuality, again, it is different. How even when it is as it is actually different than that.
Yeah, that's a strange.
So and different than that, holographically and instantaneously.
Right.
I mean,
than we could even speak about.
No fastness. Yeah, just now it's all of that and more.
Gosh. Yeah. I mean, to construct a world or a personality out of that as a view of the building blocks of what this is or isn't is. How do we do that?
And yet it's effortless. We're all experts at doing exactly that.
Yeah.
You know, and that ongoingly continues because the projected invasion division of the mind is endlessly churning out these scenarios of maybe it's this, maybe it's that, maybe I'm having fun, maybe I'm bored, maybe this, maybe
it's as if 1,000 of them pass by before I even name it one thing. That's staggering.
Could you talk to, I asked this question a year or so ago, and I'm sure you answered it very well. I can't remember.
I can't remember either, so we're even. We'll make something out.
So most of last year, so 2013, when I was getting close to kind of again being with what this is, whatever, how to say that, I got physically ill. So
Sure.
oftentimes felt, and even several times did throw up.
Sure.
My stomach would just, and then it eventually passed. And this year, it's like my body was being rewired, or something was happening with my what I perceive as a physical body.
Yeah, sure.
But I don't know what it was, but it seems to be more calm now.
Sure.
Although, could you speak to that, or
I certainly can.
or maybe you said a bad upset stomach for a long
Yeah.
time?
There's, it's
Parallel with the country.
the,
Yeah, I feel good, feel fine. Don't worry.
the, when one begins to engage with this unfoldment, with this yoga more profoundly, and it's not like this yoga or this unfoldment, any genuine unfoldment, no matter in what context or what seems to have triggered it, and however it's being parsed as being, whenever that kind of a trajectory seems to manifest more actually and more dynamically, there's all kinds of symptoms can seem to show up. You know, you can get physical symptoms, health symptoms, weird karmic symptoms where there's sort of synchronistic either positivities or negativities that just sort of weirdly synchronistically show up in your experience. You know, weird mental phenomena, weird emotional phenomena. I mean, all kinds of destabilization can seem to occur. And it's not all pretty. I mean, it can be sick. It can feel like sickness. It can feel like extreme upset or rage, or, I mean, it can feel like all kinds of things. Because basically, the things are being sort of shaken up, and so they're destabilized, and so they sort of move around dynamically until they settle into a new kind of a dynamic equilibrium. And this is very typical and very, very common to have all kinds of symptoms. You know, when people that start looking into this stuff for real, their life all of a sudden starts getting weird. And it's not just because they're looking at it weirdly so much, but things start showing up. And they're like, whoa, wait a minute, what's going on here?
Do you think they show up because they're getting cleared, like the patterns?
Who knows?
Or-
You can't say, but it's observable that, and weird stuff happens anyway all the time. I mean, you get sick from time to time anyway. And ultimately, that's the same thing. Basically, everything that happens, period, to everyone, anywhere, anytime, is essentially this pattern of unfoldment, of this unfolding to itself. Experience, the existence of an experiential framework, the existence of a being, the existence of any you out there, means that this process is occurring. Experience is the spiritual path. Experience is the path of reality discovering itself ongoingly. And, you know, for those of us that find ourselves in this kind of setting where we're addressing this more directly and radically as that, rather than as just me fumbling through my life in a less acknowledged context, that can seem to kind of accelerate or go on steroids or get a little more sort of manifest or explicit. But it's not really anything different. All of life is that. Every time anything happens, it's a sign of this process occurring. You know, you graduate first grade, it's a sign of unfoldment occurring. You know, you get sick, it's a sign of unfoldment occurring. You have a flu, it's a sign of unfoldment occurring. You fall in love, it's a sign of unfoldment occurring. It's like, because that's the only game in town. That's what's happening here. What's happening here is reality discovering itself. And the mode that reality uses to discover itself, at least as far as we're concerned, looks like what we call the existence of an experiential field, the presence of experiencing. And so everything that seems to happen or seems to be included in that is just a symptom of this primal process, this primal discovery that, you know, God is looking at God, and this is what that looking looks like, your experience. But again, you know, when this sort of kicks into high gear, you know, things can really get a little more dynamic in terms of the symptoms.
And one way that dynamism can look like is, I don't know, catatonia, like
anything.
doing a lot of laying about.
Anything. You might catatonia might be very common. Killing yourself, suicide might be common.
Right.
You know, divorce might be coming, marriage might be coming. I mean, anything can happen.
Yeah.
Right? It's like this is real life. Anything can happen.
This level, what's the concept of healing?
Well, what is the concept of healing? I mean, ultimately, you could say healing is realization. From the spiritual point of view, if reality is God looking at itself, then healing, or the finish line, or the resolution, or the success of that process would be God finding itself, which is, you know, basically what we're playing with here is you know, what I'm asserting and what I invite you to explore is that this is actually possible, and it's available, and to me it constitutes the extreme of healing. But it's not healing as it's simplistically understood. It's not like a perfectly healthy body that's never going to die or something, because the body is, you know, human beings hold the body to be a discrete system that has some importance. It isn't. First of all, the system, your body, your actual body is the full field of your experience. That's your embodiment. Your physical body is just a very, very small, partial, presented, projected aspect of that. And it's all interconnected with everything else that's appearing, and all of it is your body. And so healing is the integration of that system with its actuality, which is exactly what we're trying to address here directly.
And that's a palpable feeling.
Totally.
I would call it wearing the room. I feel like you feel like you're wearing the environment that you're in a way.
Sure. I mean, that's, you know, getting that level of realization is actually pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you just see, I mean, you know, it's like the exercise we did this morning. You feel what is present. Well, you're here, your experience is here. It's kind of like a bubble, right? That has like, okay, here's your field of vision and your hearing and blah, blah, blah. Sense fields are all floating around, mind's floating around, subtle vibes are floating around. Basically, everything that seems to be present at all in your experience is right here, right now, in your experiential field and as your experiential field. And there's nothing else. This experiential field is floating like a bubble here, and there's nothing outside that bubble. This bubble is it, you're it. And that's not even very subtle. It's really pretty obvious if you look at it. I mean, it's not like, ooh, that's weird. I mean, it is weird, well, if you're used to thinking that it's not like that, if you're just thinking that the world is the reality and I'm this little monkey shape that's sort of moving through it. But the monkey shape appears in the bubble.
Right.
You know, just like, you know, the cushion appears in the bubble and the sky appears in the bubble and the Andromeda galaxy appears in the bubble. So they're all in this bubble that's here. And the bubble is the only thing I can find, because all the patterns that appear within it come and go. They're unstable, but the bubble does not come and go.
Yeah, that's the never departing from the self.
Yeah, when you go to sleep, it's still the bubble. It looks different.
Yeah.
It looks really different. Body's gone, world's gone, everyone else is gone. Just a little weird, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's this bubble hasn't gone anywhere. You start dreaming, then the dream is the bubble. Bubble hasn't gone anywhere, it looks different. So the bubble is your real body, not what is appearing in it. You know, to me, this is so obvious. I mean, it's just like, you know, and it's not subtle. I mean, I realize that, you know, most people are in the habit of holding it otherwise in terms of their sort of unconsciously held worldview. And so that can feel like, oh, wait a minute. But if you just take a minute and look, yeah, here's my experiential field sitting here and everything is in it. And how's that any different than it's ever been? Like, not at all.
I have to start slicing it up in order to put anything outside, or attempt to even pretend to put anything outside.
Yeah, and you can't slice it up unless by pretending to, imagining, and that pretense and imagining happens within the bubble. So you still haven't gone anywhere. Abstraction happens within the bubble of experience. So it doesn't add, you're not actually going anywhere when you hear your abstraction. You're just pretending to. I mean, even location, to say go anywhere, there's the idea of awareness only appears within the bubble. The bubble is all awareness. Here and there and everywhere is just a euphemism for here in the bubble. So way over there, long ago and far away is a euphemism for in the bubble. You can't get out of the bubble. It can't
If we
happen.
took the walls of the bubble away, or the walls that the word bubble suggests, could we use the word inclusivity in lieu of
Sure.
bubble?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Why not?
Yeah.
I like bubble because it presents a very concrete,
Feeling.
tactile,
Yeah.
spatial image, whereas inclusivity is more sort of an abstract principle.
Yeah.
But they're of course they're identical.
Okay.
And a bubble, supposedly you may think has walls, and it's really, really interesting. Really, really, really interesting is to dance with the walls of the bubble. Just feel your experiential bubble sitting here. I mean, it's always here anytime, so you can do this. Just play with it. There's no tricks to it. Find the walls of the bubble. See what's up with that? What's up with that? Go to that edge where there's nothing, and try and find a point where anything or nothing stops or starts. Is there any edge there? What's going on there? What's outside the bubble? What's the bubble sitting in? It's really cool to play with. It's fascinating. It's not like
attention, 7 feet above my head back there.
Yeah, but it's also not actually spatial, so it's not anywhere. Although it can seem to be from within different framework.
Yeah.
If you look at it with relative to the visual bubble, and the visual bubble sort of comes to a point and it sort of gets fuzzy and sparkly and sort of grays out and becomes almost nothing.
Right.
But is there an edge? Is there not an edge? If this is the edge? What's like there?
So what is
And,
that?
and it's interesting because it's not nothing in any
No.
simple sense.
That's why using the visual bubble, you can imagine a point just past that gray wall.
Sure. But you got to be
It's
careful
still
of that
somewhere.
because the imagining is happening within the bubble.
Right.
Yeah,
So
and
that's why
Mm-hmm.
feeling is a good way to be with it.
Yes.
And you play with it. It's not like there's a right way. It's not like it is a certain way and there's a right or wrong way to do it.
Right.
But it's really cool to play with, and in a way it really solidifies the parameter of this bubble is here and it's real and everything is in it, because everything appears within your bubble. Nothing exists outside your bubble, and you are the sole inhabitant of your bubble. You're the only consciousness that's seeing your bubble, seeing the contents of your bubble, period. And it's really obvious. It's just completely obvious if you just look at who's seeing your experience. Well, I am. I'm seeing my experience. Is anyone else here? Not that I can find. Maybe they are or not. I can't prove that they are, but there's no there's no presence of them that I can locate.
Is the sense of I then just really an acknowledgement of the irrefutable presence of the bubble of experience, the field of experience?
Probably ultimately, sure, absolutely.
And so earlier on, we said, I am that I am. That must be just another reference to this.
Sure.
The eye can't be something somewhere appearing in the bubble. It has to
Right.
be the whole. If it's going to be anything, it has to be the whole Mandela.
Sure.
It sounds like it's landing in me, like you're talking about the present moment.
Mhm.
That's the bubble.
Of course, your experience, which is always the present moment, right?
But it includes everything.
Well, yeah.
Simultaneously.
Where is everything? Everything's in your experience. Try and find anything that's not in your experience. Where would you look? I'm only actual in your universe because I'm appearing in your experience. If you had never heard of me or met me and never were going to hear me or met me, how real am I? We can imagine some hypothetical person that none of us here will ever hear of, see, meet, or have any repercussions of whatsoever. How real are they?
But that wouldn't come up as a question at all in the present moment.
Well, I don't know. If it does, it does.
If it's
I brought it up, so I guess it did.
right.
So the only thing that we really have that's constant is that we know we're going to have a present moment.
Well, you do have a present moment. There's no gonna.
Well, we were talking about though is you were saying what you don't see in the present moment. And so that would never come up in the present moment, the way it was stated.
Well, yeah, what you don't see in the present moment is a concept that you have, it's a concept that you're having in the present moment.
Right. The question is that I put at this time.
Right.
But if you were not visible to me in this present moment,
Right.
that would never come up.
Right. Like 20 years ago, before you had ever heard of me or seen me or had any repercussions of me, how real am I? Someone that you have never met and never heard of, how real are they? Suppose you die before you meet them. How real are they? I don't know. But the point is that question is unanswerable because the only real is what is real, and what is real is this that is here, which is your experiential field. For you. For me, it's my experiential field. My universe is real, and I am the sole inhabitant of my universe, and everything that actually exists appears within my universe. And that's not bravado, that's just a simple observation of fact.
But I'm trying to articulate the possibility of things not seen. They are included in the present moment.
No, they're included as a possibility that you're holding in the present moment.
You said that again?
If there's a possibility that you are entertaining, then the entertaining of that possibility is an actuality in your experience in the present moment. A thought that you're not thinking, that you have never thought before, that you can't have no memory of thinking, does it exist?
Right.
It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist at all.
But if you're not asking the question.
Well, as soon as you ask the question, it exists as a question. It exists as a concept.
I agree.
So, in other words, what is experience is the sole reality. It's that simple. And experience is always in real time. Experience is always here now to you, as far as you're concerned. And that's it. And there's nothing else. And this isn't theoretical. This is just being empirical. There may or may not, let me rephrase that. There may be something else, but you can't know it. So as far as you're concerned, there's no way it just becomes theoretical. It's the old, if a tree falls in the forest and no one hears it, did it make any sound? Well, if you think about it, then the issue makes it exist because because the thought of it exists. But a tree that has never been seen by any intelligence, and that this assumes that the tree doesn't see itself, which of course it does if it actually exists. Existence means experiencing. There's no such thing as insentient existence. It can't happen. Existence means experiencing. Existence means appearing, and appearing means appearing to consciousness, i.e. experiencing.
Don't you feel like you can just move through and let appearance come to you without
Well, it always does.
Without any presuppositions?
Totally, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
It does come without presuppositions.
So I'm not supposing you don't exist, nor that you do exist.
Of course not. Who cares? Doesn't matter. I mean, experience just comes. And it may look like what seems to be presuppositions or not. And if it does, then that just comes. I mean, experience comes unstoppably. You can't make it come. You can't make it not come. You can't turn it off. You can't turn it on. You can't turn it up. You can't turn it down. It's always just this, just exactly like it is. And that's just what there is. It's very simple. I mean, it's really simple. We're overcomplicating something that is just really bare bones simple. This is
seems
here.
to be what happens whenever you ask a question.
Yes, it is. Yeah, because of the pretense that abstraction means anything, that words mean anything. Words are just sounds. Words are like the wind in the leaves. We try and follow them and make sense of them. Why don't we take a 5-minute break? If you're not dizzy by now. I don't know why. I'm doing my best to just fuck you up.
You're doing a good job.
And when we get back together, it'll be our last session of the afternoon.
Got it all figured out now?
Don't do it, don't do it.
Yeah, I made that with mayors. It's easy to.
These are your knees.
Yeah,
it's good, right?
yeah, so you're not compressing all of the weight.
I like something under my ankles.
Yeah, I do too. I roll it below.
Yeah, hold on, first get up.
I haven't used one in a long time. I used to have one.
And I'll place it.
I tried it yesterday.
Oh,
But I
did you?
didn't actually use it. I
Yeah,
just
you can,
put my feet on it.
Oh,
But
yeah.
yeah, it folds
and
up.
then
Yeah.
you adjust where you want it.
And then there was another tiny one I had.
That might be a little too close, then you can back it up a little.
It folded up this side. So it really just sat your butt, and then these little things came up this way.
So
You actually
in the
balance
middle, Amy's
it,
got
yeah.
one.
And that was good for travel.
I was just waiting, yeah, if you wanted me to start feeling these skills.
Like, they need
I'm
something
like, all
like
right,
this.
all right.
I mean, you can use
Oh,
mine.
yeah, and that,
And they just fold.
that makes it easier too. There you go.
What's it called?
It's a Zen, it's a Zen meditation.
Yeah.
It's very popular with Zen meditation.
But if you,
Yes.
if you start to have pressure on here.
Yeah, I have a hard time
Have
sitting
your body
still.
under pressure.
So to me, it doesn't matter if I have that or a cushion or a bed or a chair. I gotta move. Yeah, exactly. It's like those chairs they were making for a while. They had the knee pads, you can see. We've gone to several works. Now I just use the exercise ball. And I sit on that and my desk. And I feel after a while, I feel this. Yeah, yeah, it is.
No, it's too.
It's not adjustable, it's just
Change.
But I'm not going to.
Oh, that's on. No, I don't have.
I'm not even
Oh, you can.
Positioning in Toronto as well.
Meditation. That's your time.
It's in the wilderness.
Right.
Or.
Yeah, I might
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
We're looking for my boyfriend. I'm doing it. His wife.
I'll make you one. Well, you can there's that thing on this.
It's kind of.
You have one with you, okay. Yeah.
Even when I'm.
Wow.
Where I have my feet. I'm constantly sitting, my knees and my feet turn.
I'll make one for you.
Yeah, the ankles, I can't see even with that, I just, well, like you have it on a cushion there, a pad, but I used to.
So yes,
and
and then
I'm
I'm going to my.
Yeah.
My feet don't go the other way, you know?
Online.
Yeah. My feet
When
will
we get a
go
bunch of, like, what I did on the way is, I imagined that I was
Oh,
gonna, I didn't do that, I stopped at my gas twice. It was pretty good, the whole, so I filled up twice,
Yeah.
that's pretty good.
And
There's a shell right across the street, so I'll fill up and then you probably,
roll up.
twice, and then
helps a lot.
Yeah, I took out the manual, I just have to get it, I don't know why it's on 4-wheel. I need to get it off, and I'm not sure why it's on, but I have the manual, so I'll figure that out. I think it must have got bumped when we were in the car, but I just can't figure out where it needs to go to get those lights off. Because for all the highway driving we'll be doing, we just need to.
See those seats that kind of like your here and then.
Yeah, so we'll get a bunch of cars, snacky, whatever you want to bring.
Yeah.
The same principle. Remember, guys, demonstrate your angle like this.
We can pick it up tomorrow. We'll load up on some nice coffee, to our Starbucks. We'll go down the street. Just sit down.
He says, oh, let me show you.
All right.
And he sat
I got a good book to take it.
right in front, and he's like, sit like that. I just had.
And you can work too, like I can.
Yeah, no
listen to
clue
something
what
too,
it
if you want to.
I'm ready.
Yeah.
I should throw that in 3 pieces of wood myself.
Really?
3 pieces of wood, 4 and 6 screws.
Now, maybe eventually over time, you know.
Like, I guess, switch up the television.
So are you guys having?
Yeah, we're gonna-
Yeah,
yeah.
always just throw it.
The epic journey.
Are you guys heading out for this?
No, tomorrow morning, yeah.
So how long?
Oh, yeah, if there's any pressure, high density foam. High density foam on top of that.
It's surprisingly not as long as,
And then
I mean, it's
pressure
pressure
point, it seems to be increasing.
What's that? New York by myself once years ago.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, we're only an hour and a half. I mean, from here, but I am about 25 minutes south of here. I'm
I was
going
thinking
to
I
go
should
to.
try to get it, maybe I should try to go to
Well, you guys are hungry. We're back already practically. I like it.
Can I find you on? Like with, I will forget if I don't write it down. I'll think of like. That's good.
Maybe I'll experiment on a couple of.
That's pretty cool. Following. I wish I would know it. I can never discern one. Oh, working at pharmaceutical. That's not.
You want to text your email address and top the thing there?
Yeah. Well, it would be just to,
Send me,
trash them.
I forgot about that closet.
No.
Well, I do it always with our too, so I'd like to, you know, be able to spend more time with
Probably tasty.
this damn job than you know, I have this shop area that I just
Well, I
don't
don't
spend
do
any
nothing.
time in. Life gets in the way.
Do you ever feel like,
But, you know, I don't know if I can retire and stay here
yeah,
because, you know, just the costs
your
associated.
photography?
I tried it and it was a little too close. Like, it's too unpredictable. And, yeah, maybe if I joined up with somebody else and we had this synergistic energy, because I did that in college and that was great.
Yeah.
But I don't have all the skills necessary, like the marketing sector, which is an important part of it. Very good.
We're almost back-ish. I love those kneeling benches. They're so comfortable.
He was always a quiet guy and secure. He got into high school. Right before somehow somebody said, this play, you know, he did a play. And he was like, hey, like this, you know. He ended up going to Emerson College in Boston, which is had strong performance arts. He majored in creative writing. But, you know, he just loves.
Okay. Let's
I have to
to get ready to go to work, so before you start, thank you so much.
Oh.
It was just a pleasure. I was like, this is good.
Pleasure to be with you.
He lived in New York for a while. It was just, just overwhelmed financially.
Okay. We're here because we're here because we're here because we're here. One overview that applies to all this stuff is, everything I'm saying is at very best an invitation to play with this stuff and look for yourself. Nothing I'm saying means anything to you whatsoever, other than what you see for yourself in your own experience. So at best, it's just an invitation or maybe some things to play with for yourself, to play with as toys and just sort of poke around and flail around and see what you stumble on. An invitation to explore.
I like to look at the edge of the bubble thing.
Good.
It seems to me the very first thing I come across when I do that is how much anything other than just direct experience is nothing more than convention in a story about
Sure,
it.
absolutely.
So I look out the window and I say, well, is that the edge? Is something beyond that blue sky the edge? And what's out there? And it's all story. Like, and it sort of almost takes me beyond the experience of the blue sky.
Sure. I mean, and that's looking within, the blue sky is within a sense field. If you look outside a sense field, your visual field is a state of it's a sideways-ish, roughly ovoid shape that's appearing in your experience, right sort of here. I mean, mine is sort of right here, yours is wherever it is. And then there's the bubble of your hearing. Where's that happening? It's not happening exactly the same place that the bubble of vision is happening. It's sort of a different place, but it's not in a spatial orientation. It's not like the vision is here and the hearing is like right, sort of right. It's not like that, right? But everything that appears in my vision is just there, and that's little because gosh, there's more bubbles right here. There's the bubble of sound, and there's the bubble of sensation. Where's that happening? Where when I close my eyes at night and I'm drifting off to sleep, where is anything appearing? It's just, and the point isn't there's an answer to that question. The point is that it's very slippery and very weird, and so the point isn't to find an answer. The point is to explore that weirdness. So when you're playing with the blue sky, you're still within a sense field. So, you can do this. You can do this. So here, try this. Look at me and put your hands so like this now. And move your hands until you just almost can't see them. And try and move them. I don't know if my shoulders are defective. So I move them forward and get to a point where your hands sort of disappear.
Yep.
Okay, what's outside that? Where your hands are? What's outside that?
No idea.
Yeah. But play with it. There's no answer. It's not like you say, oh, it's outside, it is blah, blah.
There's nothing outside.
Well, is it? I don't know. Maybe
There's a story. There's a, I saw this thing behind me. It's like a piece of this furniture. And there was like a funny, fuzzy brown thing on it.
Sure.
Got a lot of words and story about it.
Yeah, but the words and story is not outside. The words and story is inside your mind bubble, right? So that's still inside the bubble. Yeah, outside the bubble is not spatial. It means outside, it means not appearing within your experience. So anyway, don't worry, it's best not to get too literal with this stuff. This is all at best an excuse to play, an excuse to explore. I mean, all of these, everything I say, no matter how subtle and profound and ingenious, if I say so myself, is at best an invitation to discover in the way in which what I'm saying is not true. Because the fact that I can say it means it's not true. Because the way things actually are cannot be said. So if I say things are a certain way, that's an invitation to look for yourself and discover, no, they are. It's kind of like that, but it's really like that. And then you're being with what's actually here instead of just being with ideas.
It takes it out of the mind too.
Yes,
like
that's the
exercises into the wherever we know.
Yeah. Because experience is not a thought. Experience is a felt presence. You know, light is felt, touch is felt, sound is felt, thought is felt. All of these energies are here, and you are what they're shining on. And so all of this, and none of it is thought, none of it is conceptual. That you're experiencing is not an idea, it's a concrete present fact. If it's an energy presence. I mean, that's why I call it radiant presence. You know, it's this that is actually here is really happening. It's not an abstraction, it's not an idea. And it is the way it is, and it's really weird and cool, and have fun with it. And it's not what you think it is. And it's certainly not what you're used to thinking it is. Because it can't be thought. It's unimaginable. It cannot be thought. So any thought you have of it, no matter how elaborate and ingenious, is wrong. It's just too simple. That's a simplification. It is absolutely not a simplification.
Isn't it true that every thought you have also is it?
Of course.
Because it's
sure, thought is real. Thought is not thought. Thought is, I call it radiant presence. Thought is actuality. It's actual, energy presence. It's actual reality presence. I mean, whatever. You can't say what it is, but it's for real.
It's an appearance.
Yeah. That thought is present is not an idea. It is a presence, right? And then thought can think about thought, but the presence of that thought, the thinking about thought, is not itself a thought, it's a presence. Blah, 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 Toodles all the way down.
So this thing with meditation so often, where the idea is to focus on a mantra or to focus, whatever the case, not engage with thought and the whole thought stream. Any particular utility to that?
The experiments. And every experiment has utility if it's engaged with intelligence and becomes a vehicle for discovery. Yeah. But nothing is valuable in itself just to repeat mechanically. Everything is an experiment to try it and investigate it and see what's there. See if you can find anything interesting that's going on. The point of meditation is not to meditate. The point of meditation is to discover what it is. And when you discover what meditation is, you'll know what everything is.
Peter, is it correct to say, it's like, say, you're with this presence and it's infinite and it's doing itself, it's doing me, but I am it, so I am doing it.
Right.
And it is me.
All that.
And so all the complexity, like what's going on in my body and what's going on in every aspect of my experience, I'm doing.
Yeah, you're doing every quark that appears in reality. You're it, and it's all your body. It's all your embodiment. What you actually are, not you, Fred, but you, thou.
So these words we use a lot, like compassion and love. It seems like those become most real when you're using those in relation to this experience.
Well, of course, but any word is most real when it refers to this experience, because that's all there is to refer to. Otherwise, it's just an abstraction on referring to abstractions, and how real is that?
Like you said before, Peter, it's like love is the resonance of being with this experience.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, one like we talked about this. We touched on this briefly a couple of times this weekend. It's all of this right here, right now. So if you want to find what compassion is, look at what's right here, right now. And if you can't find compassion right here, right now, it ain't compassion. If you want to find love, look at what's right here, right now. Don't go look sky. Don't love. It's like, no, this that is here, where is love? And if you can't find it, then it's just a sound. And ultimately, when you look for anything, what you find is this. So if you look for love, what do you find? This is love. You look for compassion, what do you find? You find this. So this is turbulence. I mean, obviously, you get the pattern, but it's all about, what's right here, right now, and that's the only place to look for anything. And if you're looking for anything, you're just liable to be wandering off into fantasy. And that's cool, because what's fantasy? And you're going to come right here, right now, and right, it's fantasy right here, right now. But that's the real fantasy, not the fantasy of fantasy.
Just to rephrase radiant presence 101 again. How do you answer the question? How to hold oneself in regard to the energy? How to be with the energy? Just talk about that for a second.
The way to be with the energy is absolute looseness. This is being with the energy. And after you get good at that, then tighten up and be with the energy that way. And then do tight and do loose, and do tight and do loose, and look if there's any difference.
Right.
And there's an old trick that they do in Dzogchen meditation training, which to show what meditation is. Say, okay, now meditate. Stop meditating. Okay, now meditate. Now stop meditating. And you do this sort of for like 20 minutes, like that. And after a while, it's like, are we meditating now or not? I forgot. Because meditation is a pretense of meditating. Meditation is just a word for experience, of course. And not meditating is obviously experience. And so experience and experience. It's like, whoa, big difference.
That pay
yeah.
Is there such a it's a story to imagine that brief second after when nothing's been cobbled together, where the mind startled into that.
Well, it's not a story, it's an experiment.
But I mean, what I was going to say is it a story that you could have an elongated version of the post pay?
No, it's not so much elongation. What that's about is a sensitivity training. When you discover what you see in that moment of startlement,
right?
When you become sensitive to what's actually there, then you discover the way in which it's always here.
Okay.
And then at that point, you don't need the startlement to see it, because you just see what's always here.
Right.
So it's like sensitivity training, right, to be able to recognize.
So that gap actually is constant in a sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh.
But you don't notice it. It's like becoming sensitive to the glass in the window. We're so used to seeing what's outside the window, we ignore the glass.
Right.
So that technique is a way of somehow eliminating what's outside. The startlement eliminates the content, eliminates the storyline, and so what's left is essentially naked experience.
Yeah.
Of course, the storyline is naked experience too, but it's hard to recognize it as such because of the distraction.
That's nice.
I mean, it's a when you experience and all sorts of spiritual experiments are like this, like doing meditation, doing extreme intoxications, staying up for several days. I mean, anytime you push yourself outside your normalcy, what you're doing is experiencing the extremes of experience, which helps you recognize what experience is in self. When you're sort of in normalcy all the way, it's just you get numb to everything. But when you begin to push the limits, it helps you get a frame of reference on what's here when it's just normal. It's like you're triangulating. Like if I look at you and I always look at you from the same angle, it's one thing. But if I sort of look at you like this and like this and like this, and then look at you like this, it's sort of it's a different thing. And so these ways of pushing the envelope on being with experience in sort of different extremes gives a fresher sense of what it is, of what the common denominator is. And so this kind of use of startlement is the same thing. It's a trick. It puts you into an extreme mode relatively to normalcy.
Right.
That sheds light on what normalcy is.
Right.
You want to try that? This is kind of an experiment that we do. I don't think we've done it this weekend, have we?
No.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, this is fun. What I'm going to do is I'm going to yell really loud. And what it's going to do is it's going to startle you. And the trick, even if you know it's coming, it's still going to startle you. And the trick is, in that moment of startlement, there's a little moment where the world sort of opens up and then it closes down again. And the trick is, watch that dynamism, watch the way the world, watch what happens when that happens, and what happens when it sort of goes like that. It's like a little sort of thing. And you just sort of experiment with it and feel what it feels like. Bang! Bang! It's mechanical, and even if you know it's coming, it'll happen. It's it's real fast. It's a little like a flash of clarity. Bang! Bang! You see it at all? You feel you see anything there? Bang! Bang! It's kind of like it's like a flock of birds that sort of goes up and then settles back down. And that brief moment where everything's sort of up in the air, it's like nothing is it's sort of like a big eyebrows raised thing. It's like a big question mark. You're like, what? What?
And it's pointing to the fact that is the birds are always off.
Yeah, yeah.
The eyebrows are always raised.
Yeah. But again, see, the point is not that that's a special state.
Right.
The point is to see that that's part of the range of what's here, and so you learn more sensitively and subtly about what's here that may be masked by the way you normally hold it. I won't do it again, don't worry. Relax now.
I mean, could you say you're just kind of, not that
Maybe
you're
I'm lying.
doing anything, I don't know how else to word it besides opening up, but I guess sensitizing itself to a broader range of experience in a sense?
Well, the opening up is basically mechanical. It's like it's neurological. That it's natural the way we're hardwired. That in a moment of startlement, the awareness becomes very hypersensitive because maybe like a tiger is leaping to attack you or eat you or something, and you want to be able to flash on it if you've been distracted. So you're taking advantage of this biological mechanism to explore what it feels like when you experience this sort of opening of a freedom, it's like the awareness is all of a sudden pokes its head up and looks around like this, and then it goes back to whatever it was looking at, and then it gets startled again and sort of pokes up and looks like, oh, is there danger? Is there danger? And, oh, everything's cool. Okay, and settles down. And the point of that is, then that happens mechanically. That just happens. It's like I knock you on the knee, your foot's going to twitch. It's just mechanical. But the point of doing it is you notice something about the flavor of what happens when that happens that says a lot about what's happening when that's not happening, that we may not be used to seeing just because we're usually lost in our shit. So we just,
Right. So I don't know. I guess broader range isn't exactly the right. I don't. It's like there's different ways that you can feel this in a sense.
Yeah.
Like you can feel it as
Exactly.
a person, you can feel it as the whole room, you can
Exactly.
feel it as your foot.
Exactly. It's a matter of just sort of moving things around to a different perspective. And the perspective of startlement is a different perspective than the perspective that we usually are hanging out in.
Yeah, and then it seems like you can sort of access that at any time, but not that you actually have. It's always available.
Totally. And so it's just a trick to it's like finding out what water is by poking your finger in water. And you poke your finger in water a few times and you know what water is, and you don't need to be poking your finger in water. But you can anytime you want. Yeah, but totally. I mean, you can. It's like big fun. I'm looking forward to doing that all night. Let me tell you. Woo! Woo! Love that water. Cheap thrills, right?
Do you have any suggestions how to introduce it to, because you have 2 girls, right? 2 kids?
Yes.
Any way to introduce, I have a 17-year-old and a 21-year-old. Any way to introduce this to them? Any suggestions?
Playfully.
Mhm.
You know, it's really cool and it's interesting. And you know, you can point out the slipperiness of experience, point out the, you know, in examples when it comes up just the way, there's different ways to take things depending on what you think they are.
Mhm.
You know, optical illusions are a good way to point it out. It's like, you know, you see something one way and then whoops, all of a sudden it turns around and you see it another way. And it hasn't changed, but it feels completely different. It's like, you know, the sort of 2 heads looking at each other or a vase. And you look at it, no, it's 2 heads. And, oh, it's a vase. You know, it's like, but it didn't change. Nothing. What changed when that happened? What changed?
Yeah.
There's no heads and there's no vase, but it seems to be heads or it seems to be a vase. And all of a sudden, it's like, wow, conscious experience is funny stuff. It's slippery. It's just a sort of a self-verifying way that it seems to be what you're seeing it as. And it can seem to be very differently, and you see it in different ways. And it itself isn't really either. And just, I mean, it's fun to play with, and it's fun to play games with it. And then if they actually seem to be interested in that, then you can, you know, introduce it more solemnly.
Mhm.
I would suggest.
Well, it's interesting if you think of somebody like Helen Keller who was born without any hearing or something.
Oh yeah,
So she got to experience the world in a way, and then she learned language.
yeah,
It's just weird because language seems so much a part of suffering.
sure, absolutely,
Ways, and I don't like, you know,
yeah.
I don't know what I'm trying to say with it. But.
Language is such a gift, though, too. I mean,
It's amazing. It's astounding.
that there's something that wanted to communicate, like when
Sure.
that's-
That the way in which communication happens is really trippy to look at, because in one sense, I say what I think I'm saying, and you hear the words, and you think you hear what you think I mean by those words, which is what you mean by those words. And of course, what you actually mean by them is different than what I mean by them in all terms of all sorts of implication and you know, experiential background and so on. And yet somehow, strangely, in spite of that, there can be this kind of resonance can occur. So what's up with that, you know? So again, it just shows that this is so nonlinear, and it's so, you know, the ways in which what I call inherent intelligence, the ways in which the patterns are interrelated with each other is so astoundingly weird and profound and multidimensional. The whole mechanism of abstraction, which is kind of what gets us in so much trouble, and you know, as I've been parsing it in terms of spirituality, where we abstract what the world is and form a mental map of it, and that actually becomes what makes our life suck inadvertently. And then and the fact that it's possible to see through that, which frees us from having our life suck, and the way in which that whole thing happens, how can that even occur in the first place? How can it see through itself? And then the whole thing is just endlessly weird, you know. But it's all right here to play with, and it's all right here to explore.
When you shouted, so I was like looking out the window, and across the way in the garden out there is a shovel or something, and it has a green handle.
Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden it went like, it became very vivid to me, like right there.
Isn't that interesting?
So, and then the same thing, and next to it's like a blue rug or shirt or something hanging over the fence, and the same thing happened because my focus was on that and the shadows.
Uh-huh.
Whoop. And you said to look at people like a scan, so you don't look at, or not just people, but things, like out of the corner of your eye, and maybe see what you see. And there's been occasions, I don't know, where all of a sudden somebody appears, like their head appears very large, and it's almost like the talking heads,
Sure.
But I guess it's just in my imagination, like that's because whatever screwy patterns are in my mind.
Yeah.
That's just what I'm saying.
Well, it shows you the way in which, how heavy-handedly the mind affects experience. And things aren't necessarily a particular way, but the mind makes them one way or another way. It's not like the handle actually got brighter, but the mind can see it as brighter, it can see it as less bright. And it's not like the handle's not lighting up, right? And yet that can happen. Or you can look at someone's face and it can sort of change or morph or whatever, and the face isn't doing anything.
Right.
But the slipperiness of experience and the interaction of sensory patterns with mental patterns and this whole amazing fluidity. Yeah, I mean, it's just so flexible, so slippery.
Like but this is kind of projecting into the future. But you were here in the springtime. You're here. We're all going to leave, and there's going to be like nothing in this room. Except our memory of the experience of being here.
Right.
And in a sense, sometimes that feels like an illusion, not just like with life in general.
In what sense an illusion?
Well, if you think about history, right?
So, right.
And I was probably beating Jeff's ear about this too, but
no.
In our little group, like if you go look at history, right? So different television shows will point to this. So okay, so we have this idea of what occurred in history based on history books, based on what we were taught, based on Richard. But like there's these shows, and like they're going back. Okay, so they're just TV shows, but like exactly it's all about the observer's point of view. So somebody could have thought something that we know as being a horrible experience was actually really a good experience, because something occurred to them that didn't, change their world in some kind of positive way. That you may not be able to imagine that.
Who knows? Maybe there were some Nazis who were going, "Oh boy, a Holocaust! Great, what fun!" I mean, right?
Yeah, I mean, you're right.
Everything is someone's idea of a good time, right? Sorry, that was an extreme example, but
yeah, like something like that. Or,
sure. Well,
so it's all sort of suspended. It's not where it's like floating in a. If you detach the meaning to it, it's just like, oh, that happened, boom.
Right. Okay. At this point, I'd like to re-interject something that we were talking about a little while ago, which is to really explore what anything is. Look at what is here now. So, if you want to look at history, where is history here now? Okay. Where is history here? History here now is what? It's an idea in your mind or memory or whatever, right? And that's what history is. And if it's not here now, it's not anything, because there's nothing other than what is here now. Everything that's not here now is a fantasy of something that's not here now. And that fantasy is here now, right? When you think about tomorrow, you have to think about tomorrow now, right?
Right.
So the thoughts about tomorrow are here now. Thoughts about yesterday are here now. Thoughts about George Washington are here now. Thoughts about the Big Bang are here now. And so what they actually are is whatever is here now. And so that sort of pulls it into, well, what's the concrete present aspect of that? So let's take history. this vast play of history. You know, humans have been on this earth for 5 million years and all this amazing shit has happened and blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. What's here now of that? Well, the idea of it, the concept of it, the words of it, the sound of the words that I'm saying, which are supposedly of it, whatever that means, and the echoes of genetic structure that we perhaps are in present time embodiments of this same history and evolution, you know, the echoes of this present structures of buildings that were erected sometime in the past. So history is here as this present actuality, but there's no, the building being built is nowhere. The building being built looks like this now. The Big Bang looks like this here now. George Washington crossing the Delaware looks like this here now. What's going to happen tomorrow looks like this here now. So look and see. So to find out what anything really is, look and see what portion of it is here now, and anything that's not here now is absolutely is only an empty claim. You're claiming something exists that doesn't. You're talking about Santa Claus. But there's Santa Claus, and he's at the North Pole. Sure, that idea is here now. So Santa Claus is the idea of Santa Claus that is here now because I'm talking about it. There's no other Santa Claus that's findable. Until you find one, and when you find one, then it's here now. Do you follow that?
Yeah, I guess that so it's almost like, but in a way, where I was at with all this is like that there's nothing.
Right, there's nothing other than what's here now. And that might be nothing, but here it is, so you can look at it closely and see if it's actually nothing or not. And what do you even mean by nothing? I mean, the nice thing about looking here now is you can actually explore it. Maybe this is nothing. Okay, cool. Here it is. Check it out. Is it nothing? Well, in a profound way, it kind of is. So, okay, cool. Check it out some more. Is there ways in which it is? Yeah, in a kind of way, in a kind of profound way, it kind of isn't nothing. Cool. Interesting. So it doesn't resolve just being a simple nothing or a simple something. But it's kind of nothing, and it's kind of something, and so that's cool. That's interesting because you're exploring, you're playing with actuality rather than just going off into pie in the sky of long ago and far away.
So okay, so there's a present moment, if you will, reality, worldview, that sort of thing. I'm no worldview. There's just the core reality, I guess.
Right.
And there's this real, okay, we'll take history. It's history.
Sure.
There's history and there's things that have been created. Let's take a transistor.
Sure.
It's like, okay, I wonder what a transistor is. I'm doing that here now. And
the wondering is here now.
And you find out what it is.
Well,
so
how do you
refer to that?
The idea of a transistor is here now.
Yeah.
The looking up, if you're looking it up online, the computer screen is here now. The information readout is here now. The thoughts about that and interpretation of that is here now.
Right.
I could say this has a whole bunch of transistors in it, and that's here now. Although it looks like just a phone to me, and that's here now. So that it pulls it back to what of that is actually concretely here now, experientially.
Right. How do you, I'm going to say frame or address the parts that are not here now?
There are no parts that aren't here now.
But like, I'm curious about transistors. I'm going to look that up.
Sure.
And then
the idea is here now.
The idea,
the aspiration and the desire is here now.
There is information that's somewhere.
There may be. The idea that there's information somewhere is here now. And when you find that information, then that is here now. Right now, there's no information about transistors here now, unless it's in your mind.
Can you disregard that stuff that's not here now? Or can you?
There's no stuff to disregard because it's nothing. And if it's something, it's the thought of that something that is here now and not the thing itself. So it's all the stuff that isn't here now. That's thought. All the stuff that is here, all the stuff that isn't here now is here now.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's nothing more than that, nothing less than that.
Is there any particular reason not to embrace the notion that there are things to be discovered that are not here now? I mean,
all discovery takes place here now. How can you discover something that's not in your experience? And experience
it's
is
a
always
projection. Yeah, this is
sure, and the projection is here now. So you can plan, or that planning is here now, and you can eventually carry it out. And when you carry it out, that carrying out will be here now. But it becomes real when it's real, and when it's not real, i.e., here now, it's the idea of it which is real, which is here now.
It's sort of the observer effect all over again.
Yeah.
You know, where it's like the observer makes it real.
Yes, the observer makes it real.
And
well put. That's a bumper sticker. The observer makes it real.
But other
period.
Than that, it's some abstraction, some conceptual thing.
And the abstraction is only real if an observer makes that real. Yeah. An abstraction that no one has ever thought is not even an abstraction.
It's just hard to juxtapose all this stuff.
Only because we're used to thinking it's other than that. Only because we're used to thinking of it in different terms. All I'm suggesting is a reality check. Check it out for yourself. What is actual, and where do you look to find actuality? And what I'm saying, as you appeal to observer effect, yeah, great. The only place to find actuality is in your experience. I may claim there's actuality. I may claim, oh, I know all about transistors. And that claim is in your experience because I'm saying it. The information isn't in your experience unless I explain to you all about transistors, and then the information is in your experience. Right? But until it collapses until the observer makes it real, it just ain't. Unless it's being alluded to as a possibility, and then that illusion is real, but only the illusion.
So if I say in my now,
right,
I'd like to know about transistors.
Sure.
Bring me the information.
Sure.
Saying that to whatever.
Sure.
Then it should start appearing in my.
I don't know. Maybe not.
Maybe or maybe not.
Depends how helpful the everything is being.
Yeah, but it seems very.
I might rush over transistors. Here you go. In which case, your information would be there. Or you might say it in an empty room, and good luck. Okay, tell me about transistors. I'm waiting. I'm ready.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Though.
I've got to go somewhere. Come on, I've got things to do.
That's what I mean.
Right.
Saying it like that.
Sure. Well, try it and see. Explore.
Like they say, if you lose your keys. So in my bubble, I lose my keys and I say, show me my keys, where they are. I can't have a concept of where they are. I don't have a concept of where they are.
Right.
But it'll show me.
Maybe it will. And if it does, it does.
Yes.
Maybe you'll get the information about transistors just by asking. And if that happens, that happens. And it's cool. But until it happens, it hasn't happened. And there's no way to predict beforehand what can happen and what can't happen. Can keys show up magically? Sure. Can information show up about transistors show up magically? Or coincidentally or synchronistically? Why the hell not? Or not? Right? But there's no way to know what's actually going to happen. Right? But there's no way to know what isn't going to happen either. So it's not like, oh no, you ask for your keys, how can they ask for your keys? Maybe you'll be shown where they are. What the hell? Why not?
And
ask for show me about transistors. Maybe a book's gonna fall out of the sky into my lap, right? Who can say, right? Maybe it will. I mean, it's not happening at the moment, but what the hell? It's early days yet, right? We're here for another half hour.
There's this idea, I guess. I'm
Spoil sport.
The idea, I guess, I'm playing with is telling my bubble what I want in it. right?
Why not?
I guess it comes even back to the idea of healing, like telling your body, like, is your body just doing it? Does it know, or is it your mind that's stopping it from doing it? Or is it your mind, like if I say heal or change
Right.
or do something that it knows to do,
Right.
like where's the direction coming from? Is it?
Well, you can't say, but whether or not it can happen, you can't say. You know, you might say body heal and it heals, but you can't. But even when that happens, you can't say what happened. All you can observe is that seemed to happen, because ultimately, it's all mysterious. Ultimately, you can't know for sure what anything is, or where it comes from, or where it goes to, or how it's interconnected. All you can do is sort of look empirically.
So the suggestion of the causality of I asked to know about transistors and the book happened to fall into my lap.
Right.
I still can't say anything about that.
No, it's just a hypothesis. I can speculate that maybe there's some magical causality where my wish went out and the great spirits of above manifested a book. Like bullshit.
Right.
It's a story, and which is interpretation, which is a hypothesis. Maybe that's how it was. But the operative word there is maybe, or maybe not.
Right.
Maybe something else happened that I'm just spinning as being there.
Right.
You know, I tell, you know, I have a problem in my body, and I say heal, and all of a sudden, wow, the problem's gone. Cool. So, hey, great, why not? But you know, my will was aligned with divine will and sent a healing ray of violet that moved from the seventh ether and shone down upon the afflicted. Yeah, maybe, but maybe not. Maybe the fuck not. You know, it's like all you know is the event, and you don't really even know the event in terms of knowing the event. It's just whatever happened, and I'm calling it healing. But you don't know what the problem was. You don't know what the solution is. You don't know what happens when it moves from problem to being healed. And I mean, you know, the pretense that we have a clue, we know how anything happens, it's obviously absurd. You know, and so, but all bets are off. You know, by all means, try and heal yourself. Why not? By all means, try and, you know, get magical information. I mean, command the spirits. I mean, what the hell? Maybe you can, right?
Well, are you implying
Stop
that the only reality? I know what you're going to say. The only reality is our present experience. Then, how are you just ignoring the libraries of stuff?
Which libraries of stuff?
All the whatever libraries.
Where are they?
I mean, the Akashic record, the
well, okay,
information.
Cool. Okay, cool. Akashic record.
Yeah.
Where's the Akashic record here now?
I have not the foggiest of ideas.
Well, maybe it's here now. If it's not here now, then it's nowhere, and it's just a word and an idea, and the word and the idea is here now. Maybe it is here now. Maybe by sufficiently intelligent extrapolation, you can look at the information that's present in your mind and extrapolate all other information that could be present throughout all space and time in the universe, if you're really sharp.
Yeah.
I'm not quite up to that, but I'm working on it. So maybe the Akashic record's right here, right? And you're just a clod at reading it. maybe this is the Akashic record. You know, all information in the universe is right here in the disposition of the quarks and the, you know, blah bullshit, right? But okay, cool. But again, we're often the maybes, and the maybes are here now, but maybes are just maybes.
Well, there's still going to be words.
Are there words if there are words? Look here now and see if there's words. Well, I'm talking to there's words.
Maybe if you could read the Akashic records, you're reading words. I guess not necessarily.
If they're verbal,
Yeah, they could be anything.
maybe they're encoded as thought.
Well, the Akashic records is just,
Maybe they're encoded as
it's just everything knowing. It's just,
maybe, who knows what it is.
so wouldn't it be here all the time, even if
If it's anything, it's here. That's for sure.
So would you say that there's infinite answers in every moment, even if you're not aware
Yes.
of it? Yes.
Yes, this is it, and so everything is here, so all information is here,
Yeah.
all questions are here, and all answers are here.
Yet, I couldn't define a transistor very well asked.
I guess that's not here. At least the readout isn't here.
So I'm just, are you saying that stuff may or may not exist, or are you saying that stuff doesn't exist?
Which stuff?
Whatever stuff is not here now.
Whatever's not here now doesn't exist. But you can't say what that is, because you can't say what is here now, and you can't say what isn't here now. So you can't elaborate.
So creation sort of goes along your reality. I mean,
Yeah.
It is a movable thing.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
You're
Reality
creating as you drive.
reality is continually moving as the dynamism of your experiential presentation. Period.
Wow, that period is a big period.
Yes, it is.
It's kind of nice.
It's a fun period, actually. It's a trippy period. It's a big period.
It's a universe.
Big ass period. I want to see a big period. Check out this one.
You get that, you don't have to worry about that other stuff that's not here. You don't have
Yeah.
to worry about the drought in California or the
Wow,
war in the Middle East.
what's the point? If you worry about it, you're worrying about the fantasy of it, because you can't access it. Right? I'm really worried about terrorism. I don't see any jihadis running around here with bombs, and I know. I mean, I'm sure some of you are. You've got your bombs stashed away and haven't thrown them out yet.
You're containing yourself.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But so worrying about it is creating, like, I know what jihadis means even, or is, you know. I mean, when you worry about a phenomena, you're supposing that phenomena actually exists as a whole, as opposed to a random confluence of all sorts of conditions, none of which are integrated with each other. I mean, the drought in California is integrated with socio-political behavior and water storage and weather patterns and ocean patterns and biological patterns. I mean, God knows everything. I mean, it's like you'd have to look at the entire, history back to the beginning of time of the terrestrial biosphere to see what the drought in California really is. Because it's all like bang, it's a confluence of all of this inconceivable complexity. So how are you going to worry about that? You have to create a cartoon of it and then worry about that. So you create a Mickey Mouse that looks like the drought in California, and then you start really worrying about the Mickey Mouse. And that's what happens. That's pretty literally what all this mental obsessiveness is about.
But it doesn't help.
It doesn't help anything. No. Okay, here we are we're worrying about the drought in California. Aren't they happy? Aren't they glad we're worrying about it? It's really helping a lot, isn't it? They're just like, the water is just like, maybe it is, right? Maybe it is, right? Maybe like right now, the skies have opened and like inconceivable volumes of water are pouring out of California because we're talking about it. Who knows?
But if you think in actuality, worrying about it you're creating worrying about it.
Sure.
So if you wanted to heal it, you'd have to create healing in the now.
Maybe, or maybe healing will just happen even if you don't create it.
Maybe.
Or maybe a healing will happen if you try to.
Anyway.
Maybe if you try to make it more of a drought, maybe you're a perverse creator, and it'll actually solve the drought. Who knows? Right?
Since you looked at me, I guess I might have.
Oh, did you have a?
Yeah, I was thinking about it.
Oh, cool.
Since you looked
I
at
thought
me.
I saw a motion back there.
No, I can remember what it was.
You can make something up.
Yeah,
That's what I do.
That's what I do. Yeah. Well, if this is doing itself, I mean, if that's like an option, I don't know, right? Then, like, worry or not is kind of just, it's like, it just is, I don't want to say irrelevant, but it's sort of a, I guess it's just back to that, like, you're just clueless. You're just kind of like,
Yeah, but that doesn't
like,
eliminate.
You don't know how anything would affect anything else. Or what it would
Of
look
course.
like, or,
How could you? But that doesn't preclude anything.
right.
that's an invitation to have at it any old way you want or not.
It's magic, so
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's magic, and so it'll work or it won't, and just like always, and you don't know what's going to happen, just like always, and so cool.
That's fun.
It's totally fun. That's the point. Have fun. I mean, you can suffer through life or you can laugh through life. You know, which would you rather do?
Yeah, just to get back to the idea too about, because I'm having trouble with that one. The idea of that, you know, in this given moment, all possible potential answers to all possible potential questions exist.
Of course.
But if I'm sitting in a dark room not asking any questions,
right,
then that's an erroneous idea. I can come up with any question.
It may or may not be.
Right.
It all depends on how profoundly you can access the inherent intelligence.
Right.
An Einstein can sit in this room and just looking around him, extrapolate the way space and time works and the way stars will bend light.
But he has
by
to
sitting and thinking about it right here, right now.
But before, when he's walking,
you and
down the
me
streets
might
of-
just sit around here going, I wonder if the bars are open yet.
I guess my point is that when he's walking down the streets of Vienna at 16 or whatever, and when he got up for breakfast, before the day that he said, I wonder what it would look like to travel on a beam of light.
Right.
That morning at breakfast,
right.
That really wasn't going on for him. The cornflakes were going on, and later that day, and that now, the idea, the thought experiment of that.
Sure.
You know.
Sure.
But it's
the same. But it's the same thing in a different readout.
Right.
Cornflakes and theory of relativity are interchangeable.
Right.
You know, in one guy's it looks like cornflakes, and in other guys it looks like theory of relativity, but it's the same thing. It's a different readout. It's always the same thing. It's always a different readout.
Right.
It's always it can look like anything. That's the readout, but it never departs from itself. That's what it is.
Yes.
So the theory of relativity is cornflakes, is your left foot, is the drought in California, you know, is dinner tonight, is whatever.
Yeah.
So it's all here. It's all there. It's all just down to the ingenuity with which it happens to show up, and there's no holds barred there.
No rules.
There's no rules. You can't say what's going to happen. You can't say what's not going to happen. You can't say what's possible. You can't say what's impossible. I mean, maybe you just look around you and all of a sudden you know what a transistor is and you can design one. In fact, you can make a better transistor. All previous transistors suck. Your transistor rocks, right? Just from sitting here, just because like that just happens. I don't know. Maybe, who knows? Probably not. I'm betting, but hey, what do I know, right? That's the whole point of betting.
It seems really sensitive, this bubble, what's in the bubble, because I find sometimes if you like, so in terms of focus, you know, we're all right now talking about transistors. It seems that there's a pattern sometimes, like synchronicity.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, all of a sudden, like, you know, someone's gonna tomorrow tell me about transistors. Do you know what I mean? Like,
hey, why not? Sure.
It attracts
Well,
in the bubble. Like it's very active and dynamic. It's not
Right.
like
totally.
in the actuality of a quality that it seems to have.
Well, the way I like to put that is it's related to itself with inconceivable intelligence across in all modes simultaneously. So you could say it's ultimately synchronistic. So it's simplistic to look at it as causal, like anything's causing anything, or any resonance is generating something, but it's interrelated with itself. So everything that happens is inconceivably profoundly related with everything else that happens in inconceivable, multiple, nonlinear dimensional ways that can and will show up in all sorts of inconceivable readouts. So it's sort of cross-connected with itself with inconceivable intelligence and purposefulness. In other words, it's not inert. It's not just mechanical blah sitting here like a you know, whatever. It's more like a inconceivable hyper-intelligent supercomputer talking to itself, and all of this is just it's talking. So it's like it's astounding intelligence. All form is the manifestation of pure, inconceivable, transcendental intelligence.
So in that light, then the miracle of the synchronicity showing up.
Yeah.
Is the miracle is there's only synchronicity.
Yes, there's nothing but.
It's all.
Yeah, it's all inconceivably miraculous, and and appreciate it.
Right.
It's like, oh, it's
Right.
just a bunch of stupid shit happening, and it's all this random man. This chair's just happened to be sitting here. It's like,
And so for me to pull out I was thinking about Fred, and then Fred called, is like just, it's like one fractal inch of an entire synchronistic thing.
yeah, and Fred not calling is equally synchronistic to Fred calling.
It's the
And equally profound and equally astounding.
Right.
And this is noticing.
Right.
This is appreciation. This is sensitivity
Right.
to how inconceivably vital, vibrant, spontaneous, and intelligent this actuality is.
Right.
You are, because you are this.
It's listening.
Yeah.
It feels like that.
It's listening. It's talking. It's inconceivably intelligently engaged with itself. And this is what you are. This is what this is.
And it's beyond time.
Totally.
So synchronicity shows
It generates time for its own purposes. I mean, time is one of its modes of apparition, but it's not limited to that. You know, it generates space. I mean, this space is here within your experience, right? When you fall asleep tonight and go to sleep, this space is poof, it's gone. You're still there, and there may be other spaces appear. You start dreaming, and maybe another space appears, right? It's in you. So space is one of its modes of presentation to itself, but it is not limited to spatial, even though it can do space. It does space.
Feels like space. Though, too.
Sure, it's spacious. It's kind of a meta space, and whatever that means. You know, but again, it's not a simple space or not. It's something weirder than that.
I don't need any actual space to have infinite space.
Yeah. And yet you can do as much actual space as you want if it's convenient.
Right.
You want space? Here we go. Voila.
Right.
My pleasure. I hope you enjoy it.
It's in terms of space too. It feels like there's no space because it's
Sure.
so right here.
Absolutely.
That if you really sit with that bubble that you were talking about, it's just so here.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's smothering almost.
Yeah. It's absolutely.
Yeah.
It's absolutely here-ness. There's no there. And so, space requires degrees of there-ness, degrees of here-ness. And yet it's not either or, it's both. There's as much here and there as you want, and if you look at it that way. And there's no space whatsoever if you look at it that way. So it's just different readouts of the same thing.
And you can go to sleep at night and dream that you're on the edge of the Grand Canyon, and there's all the space you need, and where's that happen?
Sure. Or light. You know, here's light. Oh, the light's coming from the light. Light's coming from the sun. You know, go to sleep, and you start dreaming, and all of a sudden you're on a brightly lit plane. Where's that light coming from?
Right.
There's no lights there. There's no sun there. No, she said, sure there is. Look in the dream. There's the sun. Look out here. What's putting this sun here? You know, you close your eyes and go to sleep. Where's this sun go? It's just nothing. It appears if it appears, and the only thing about that appearance is it is an appearance within your experience. Mysterious. Easy come, easy go. It is wild. It is wild, you know, and that's just like the threshold of starting to play with it. You know, it's just like, okay, cool. This is fun. This is wild. Like, let's, you know, this. So what? Hey, just have at it. Have fun with it. Yeah, yeah. It's just it's like, wow, how far can this go? You know, where can you go with this? How weird is it? How weird is weird? How weird is weird to the power of weird? Yeah. Find out. Check it out.
What do you think of the past, present, and future coexisting simultaneously then if there's only now?
Well, they do, because there is only now. So if you want to know what the past is, you have to look here now. And you find the past is here now, right? I mean, I can tell you, if I was really boring and had a great memory, I could tell you the entire history of all the events of my life, right? And I would be doing it all here now. I would be remembering it all here now. With an actual past, what would that even mean? You know, it would only be actual if it was here now, and it ain't.
And what about the
Past
future?
is gone, future
Same, same.
hasn't
Yeah.
come, and yet the future has never came.
Yeah.
That the future is a thought that we have here now, and it's never been more than that. The future has never been more than here now. The past has never been more than here now. But wait a minute, there's this building and it was built and it's not being built now. Okay, maybe, but that being built is what is now, what is here now.
Yeah.
So the idea of parallel universes, that, you know, I'm existing somewhere and I'm 5 and I'm
Sure.
whatever that means, and or, you know, and then that fractals off into, you know, branches off into all kinds of different other
Sure, why not?
versions of me.
Sure. But
So
there's
is that all here?
maybe it is.
Maybe
It's
not.
just when you to look at what's here now, it means to get a readout. And there's infinite dimensional readouts available here now. I mean, if you look very closely, this is a fun thing to play with. If anyone looks very closely within your experience, you'll notice that when you're awake, you're actually dreaming at the same time, although typically not paying much attention to it. And you're actually in deep sleep at the same time, and vice versa. So, like, in other words, right now, you're having a very active fantasy life, even whether or not you're paying attention to it, which is essentially a dream ongoingly. And we start to drift off or daydream, and we're sort of give more attention to that dimensional readout, So that's happening. And that's no more or less real than this that's happening. It's just a different readout. It's sort of a different focus on the same here nowness, the same actuality. And there's no necessary limit as to what that can be, what that can look like. And that one is, no, this is real and that's fantasy. It's like, no, it's, if it's experience, it's experience. And you can't say what it is, even as it is experience. Oh no, but this is material. This is awake. You know, that's just, it's like, no, if it's there, it's there. You know, can a dream be more real than awake? Well, sure, it is every time you go to sleep and dream. You know, or if you really hardcore meditate and go into a vision, you know, that can be much more real and can completely replace your sensory experience. This is doable. And there's no limit to how much multitasking or multidimensionality that can be. And can you be having 2 dreams at once? Sure, why not? What the hell? So why not 50 billion dreams at once? Okay, cool. Why not? You know, just check it out, play with it. You know, but there's no reason to suppose anything can't be a certain way, or anything has to be a certain way, because you can't say what way anything is to begin with. So you have no basis for anything other than just making empty assertions. No, you can only experience one state at a time. You can only eat fish on Friday. Well, yeah, you can say that, but does that make it so? You know, check it out. Experience is very slippery, and that slipperiness, from the point of view of playing with it, from the point of view of what might be called magical engagement, is an invitation to open-endedness. It's an invitation to, hey, go nuts. Which is good. I'm really happy. We're going to some good places. You know, we're really. I'm very pleased with you all. And no, I'm not. And this event, I mean, it's just because these things are always an improvisation. You know, I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what you guys are going to say or where you're going to go with this stuff. But this has been really good. I mean, we're getting into some really kind of fun stuff. And why the heck not? You know, it's very cool. I mean, one thing that hopefully this weekend illustrates to some extent is how arbitrary normalcy is and how absurd the notion of being stuck in normalcy is, because It's not necessary. You know? This is here, and other than that fact, all bets are off. Even that this is here, it's like, what does that even mean? Even that's up for grabs. So it's, you know, you can't really hold this as being any which way or any other way or not, or none of the above, or it's just like, I don't know. But here it is.
So we're much more creative than we take ourselves to be.
Sure, why not? I mean, there's no limit to the possibilities of being with subtle angles. There's no reason to suppose there's a limit. You know, find it out for yourself. Any limits are sort of tend to be self-created.
Imagined or.
Yeah, you imagine limitations are projected from imagination and held to be true. Oh, I'm stuck in my sorry life, and God, I'm like, really? You know, does it have to be like that, or is that just a claim that is being projected? Try projecting something else, and you can project that too, or try projecting nothing, and I mean, whatever. Right? The point is to experiment, and when you experiment, you discover, wow, things are slippery. And slipperiness is an opportunity. Slipperiness is an invitation that, well, you try doing it another way.
Change it.
Change it. Do it different. Be with it some other way. You know, why the heck not?
So you're making your own experience in a way.
Yeah, forge your own path. Invent your own techniques. You know, and you know, create your own universe. You know, why the heck not? But you know, the power of all of this is always synchronizes to what is here now. That's what makes it powerful, and that's what keeps it just from splitting off into fantasy, which ultimately is going to get you in trouble. That's what screws us up in the first place. That's what makes us, because as soon as you split off into fantasy, ultimately you end up in smaller, duller, stucker, inevitably, as far as I know, right? Whereas if you stay with what's here now, you discover openness, you discover infinity, you discover possibility, you discover alternatives, you discover multidimensionality, which is just really cool. I mean, if you like smallness and stuckness, that's absolutely all right, and it's easily doable. But you don't need to, because here now is the doorway to openness. I mean, it's the opposite of what it's like the escapist fantasy. You know, it's the opposite. The escapist fantasy is, God, this is so little and stuck. I just want to get out there and hit some freedom and find, you know, whatever. It's the other way around. It's the getting out there that creates the stuckness. And when you come to actual concrete presence, you discover astounding openness and infinity. I mean, it's just so opposite. It's so inside out from the normal human fantasy. Oh no, actuality is the problem, you know. How do you make reality go away? You know, it's like, no. That reality is the problem, is a fantasy.
Yeah.
So it's a fantasy that's a problem.
It's all delusion,
But so there seems to me to be a significant difference between creative imagination, you know, really going on,
right,
and you know, reruns of arguments or what, you know what I mean? They're both abstractions,
right? Sure.
But it seems to me there's a qualitative difference between the two. What's your
the difference? The difference is how objectively one holds these things to be. If you hold a fantasy to be accurate, an accurate modeling of reality, then that is a different thing from just holding it to be a creative exploration, a thought experiment.
All right. So you were sort of
thought experiments are not entrapping. Creative imagination is not entrapping. Supposing that a fantasy is actual is entrapping because it's psychosis, it's craziness.
Yeah.
You know, and you if
you're
you find
gelling something out of it as something real.
Yeah, and what you gel out of it, you will tend to be stuck in. You're not actually stuck in it, of course, but you will feel stuck in it because you feel stuck in it because you're creating the stuckness. Stuckness is imagined into existence, and it only becomes actualized when it's believed in. You know, belief is the enemy. Belief is the limitation.
Right. So not so much abstractions.
Abstractions are fine,
Yeah.
but the
But
trick is
clinging onto them. and
No.
making them-
the only problem with abstractions is not recognizing that they are abstractions.
Okay.
That's why it's always like, look at what's here now.
Yeah.
If you look at what's here now, you'll very clearly see when something's an abstraction. So like the past, you know, if you just look at the past, it's like, was it real or not? I don't know. But wait a minute, reality check. What is here now? This is here now, this experiential actuality. Where's the past? If the past is real, it's here now. And the only past that's here now is conceptual. So right away, bang, the past is a concept. And the reality check is looking at what's here now. That's the touchstone that's like your yardstick of what it is. Look at the way in which it is present. If you want to know what anything is, look at the way in which it is present. You want to know what love is, find what love is right here, right now, and that's what love is. Now, otherwise, it's just this, whoa, I mean, you get lost in all these possible fantasies and abstractions, and whoa, it's just huge. But like, what is it right now, right here? You know, what is anything right now, right here? What do you want to know what matter is? Cool. What is right here, right now? What's matter? Matter is experience. That's what's right here, right now. And the notion that matter is some objectively existing stable structure, I mean, that's a concept that may or may not be here now. And so, cool, wow, interesting. Matter is a concept. Matter as experience is an actuality. That's an interesting discovery. I mean, that turns your materialism on its head, but it's completely obvious when you apply the touchstone of what's here, actually here now. Do we have a time when we're being kicked out of here or anything, Jeff? Or is it kind of...
You're just having too much fun, man.
Well, I'm having fun. And these people are either high or they're totally bonkers. And which is their problem?
Pretending like you're real.
I don't know, what's that? It's a slippery slope. Well, that's a good example. So, are you real? Okay, cool. There's a question. So to address the question, you look at what is here now. So what is here now? And so you are real as my experience, and anything more than that is you are real as the concept of you being real in some other sense. This is an example.
And then then you can keep going down that hallway. Okay, here you are experience, but what is that? What
Sure.
are you in my experience?
Absolutely, all that.
The Teflon just you fall off the edge of it, like
And yet, what it is stays because it is here now.
right.
Is there intelligence? Yeah. Is there meaningfulness? Yeah. Is there synchronicity? Yeah. Is there apparent patterning? Yeah. Is there unresolvability of apparent patterning? Yeah. Is there vitality? Yeah. And what those actually are is findable and discoverable, and hence engageable with very directly, rather than getting lost in confusion. The problem with abstraction is not abstraction; it's confusing abstraction with actuality. When you can tell the difference, then you're.
But then you can just say, well, that everything's abstraction.
Well, you can say that, but you have to look here now to see if it's true, and you discover that that itself is an abstraction.
Right.
Because this is not an abstraction.
Right.
See, so right away, it's like already you're jumping off into fantasy land. But you just look and see what the way in which that is here now, and then that immediately falls out into what it actually is.
Seems like there's some angst or some whatever involved when you're you don't know if it's an abstraction or if it's something you're looking at. Like if you would see some wavering experience. Yeah, you know,
Sure.
you don't know what to make of that, and then it
in that,
causes your reality to come into question. Like
Sure.
if you think you see a ghost, or
well, if you
that's
see,
an extreme.
if you're seeing a ghost, it's like here now, or you're seeing a ghost. And if you're seeing a ghost, it's not a ghost; it's an experience here now. And whether or not it's a ghost is like whether
Yeah.
or not anything is anything. That's just a matter of splitting hairs of labeling.
Yeah.
And so if you see a ghost, then the ghost that you see is the experience you have when you're calling seeing a ghost, if you're having it here now.
Yeah.
And if you're not having it here now, then it's an abstraction or an idea or anything else that is then that.
Peter, if I see you here now,
Yes,
that's an actual experience.
yes.
But whatever interpretation I put upon seeing you here now is an abstraction.
Maybe so. And if you're putting that interpretation on it and that abstraction is here now, then that abstraction is an actual abstraction, i.e. an additional embodiment of the patterning of the moment. But it's in the dimension of thought rather than in the dimension of sensory presence.
So this is less about thought, it's more about just experiencing?
No, thought is an experience
Part of
too.
it.
Thought's an experience too. But thought is thought and sensory experience is sensory experience, and they're different. And more to the point, thought is real-time energy presence, and the content of thought or abstractions is an imaginary creation that is held to exist somewhere else, someone else. So Santa Claus, the thought of Santa Claus is an energy presence in my mind right now because I'm thinking the thought of Santa Claus.
Mm-hmm.
But Santa Claus, as the jolly old elf dressed in red living at the North Pole, is absolutely nothing other than a thought that I'm having at the moment, which is not Santa Claus. The thought that I'm having at the moment is not an elf, it's not dressed in red, and it's not living at the North Pole. So it's not Santa Claus, even though I'm calling it that. See? So the abstraction sort of takes the thought in present and sends it off and imagines that it's something that's actually there.
Gives it a life.
It gives it a pseudo life. And if you think that life's an actual life, then you're lost in that life. You're lost, yeah. You may or may not be screwed, but you're off and running, at least, until you reel yourself in, if ever.
And that's no different than the transistor.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so my mind wants to like come up now with a less abstract abstraction. Okay, so I'm going to take the erasure board that said everything is an abstraction. So I'm going to erase that. And I'm going to replace it with another abstraction, which I think is less abstract, which is that there's only one thing that's not an abstraction, and that's this.
Right.
And that was
Okay, yeah.
And I know that's still an abstraction, but that's a less abstract abstraction. There's only one thing that's not an abstraction, and that's what this is.
Right. Well, more to the point, you discover abstractions are not abstractions.
Right.
Because abstractions are this. That abstractions are abstractions is itself the meta abstraction. Think about it.
Yeah.
Santa Claus is nothing more than the present thought of Santa Claus.
Right.
And that there's any abstraction or any abstract Santa Claus that exists is itself an abstraction, which is itself nothing more than the present thought that there is such a thing.
But my mind wants to say there has to be something unabstractable present to hold all and entertain all abstractions.
There is nothing but what is non-abstract present
Right.
that entertains and holds all abstraction.
And that's not an abstraction.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Okay.
All abstractions are based in and consist of actuality and are not abstractions.
So the koan is like, what is this? Non-abstraction that allows all abstractions to be abstract?
Absolutely.
Good.
Well, I
Write it down.
I have considered that. And the way I say it to myself is, the inexpressible is irrepressible.
Sure, absolutely.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a bumper sticker.
I like that.
Thank you, that one. Very good.
And it rhymes, right?
Yeah.
That's 2 points. That's 2 points.
And another way to say it is,
I like the-
I turn this off.
Right.
I like the, we revel in revelation.
also, you know, so there's like, it was the turn
You gotta go into
of
business.
the word.
Sure.
Here, I'm gonna start a book.
The new hallmark
And then,
words.
like,
Well,
take a
I mean,
note.
what you're pointing at is exactly what I mean by my phrase radiant presence. Because the presence is the inexpressible and the radiance is its irrepressibility. The fact that it was always bang, doing all this apparently.
My mind was just, never mind.
What is it here now?
I was just going bumper stickers, something about your Christmas morning. Every morning is Christmas morning because there are always radiant presents under the tree.
Oh.
Good night. I'm here all week. Trying to live.
That's what I want under my tree.
Take my wife, please.
I'm gonna let that be the last word. When you think of this weekend, remember this. So anyway, thank you all very much for coming. I hope you found this interesting and or entertaining and or valuable and or you don't give a shit, whatever. But anyway, I wish you all the best. And there you go. There you have it. Onwards and whatever.
Onwards and upwards.
Thank you.
Come back.
Thank you. Thank you.